See, have you ever wondered why certain activities drive you to push yourself further, while others barely get you to lift a finger? This, my friends, is the fascinating puzzle of motivation. A puzzling yet integral part of our lives, motivation is the fuel that drives our actions, our aspirations, and our accomplishments. Now imagine motivation as a two-faced coin, each side representing a different type of motivation. On one side, we have intrinsic motivation, and on the flip side, we have extrinsic motivation. Intriguing, isn't it? Intrinsic motivation, as the term suggests, stems from within us. It is the inner drive that propels us to engage in activities that we find personally rewarding. It's the kind of motivation that comes into play when you're engrossed in a gripping novel, working on a hobby, or even solving a complex puzzle just for the sheer joy of it. On the other hand, extrinsic motivation is driven by external factors. Picture yourself pushing through a tough workout not because you enjoy the burn, but because you're aiming for that summer body. Or perhaps you're pulling an all-nighter to clinch that promotion, not because you love the work, but for the recognition and financial reward it brings. That, dear listeners, is extrinsic motivation at play. Both intrinsic and extrinsic motivations play a crucial role in our lives. They influence our decisions, shape our behaviors, and ultimately determine our achievements. But here's the interesting part. These two types of motivation can often interact and intertwine in intriguing ways, sometimes complementing each other, at other times working at odds. So, why is it important for us to understand these different types of motivation? Well, the answer is simple. Recognizing what truly motivates us can help us harness our energies more effectively, leading us towards more fulfilling and productive lives. Unraveling this puzzle of what motivates us can be the key to unlocking our full potential. Consider this. Have you ever been so absorbed in a hobby or personal project that you lose track of time? This is intrinsic motivation at play. It's when you're so engrossed in an activity that you forget about everything else. You're not thinking about rewards, recognition, or any external factors. You're simply engaged because you find the activity itself rewarding. Imagine a painter lost in the rhythm of their brushstrokes, or a musician so absorbed in their melody that the world outside ceases to exist. This is when we are driven by our passions, our interests, and our hobbies. These are not activities we have to do, these are activities we want to do. This desire comes from within us, not from any external pressure or reward. Intrinsic motivation is like a spark that ignites the fire within us. It's the fuel that keeps us going when things get tough. It's the inner drive that pushes us to keep learning, keep exploring, and keep pushing our boundaries. Think about when you're trying to solve a complex puzzle or when you're engrossed in a good book. You're not doing it for any external reward. There's no boss telling you to do it, no paycheck at the end of it. You're doing it because it's challenging, it's engaging, and it's satisfying. That's intrinsic motivation. This type of motivation is powerful because it's self-driven. It's not dependent on external rewards or recognition. It's based on personal satisfaction and the joy of doing something we love. It's about personal growth and the sense of accomplishment we get when we overcome challenges and learn new things. Intrinsic motivation is about the journey, not the destination. It's about the process, not the outcome. It's about doing things for their own sake, not because of what we get out of them. So next time you find yourself lost in a hobby or a personal project, remember, that's the power of intrinsic motivation. It's the engine that drives us to pursue our passions, to learn new things, and to grow as individuals. Intrinsic motivation, therefore, is when we are driven by internal rewards, like personal growth and satisfaction. Now think about a time when you pushed yourself to do something mainly because of a reward or to avoid a punishment. Imagine the scene. It's late, you're tired, but you're still at your desk working away. Why? Because you know there's a hefty overtime pay waiting for you at the end of this long, exhausting shift. Or perhaps you're a student, cramming for an exam late into the night, not because you love the subject, but because you dread the thought of failing. Welcome to the world of extrinsic motivation, where actions are influenced by external factors. The rewards we seek or the punishments we strive to avoid are the driving forces behind our efforts. Consider the professional athlete, training relentlessly, driven by the glory of a gold medal, or the salesperson working tirelessly to hit their target and bag that enticing bonus. These are classic examples of extrinsic motivation in action. Extrinsic motivation can be incredibly powerful. It pushes us to work harder, run faster, and reach higher. It's that extra push when the going gets tough, when the finish line seems too far, or when the mountain too steep. It's what keeps us going when we'd rather not. But it's important to understand that extrinsic motivation isn't always tied to personal satisfaction or fulfillment. We might not enjoy the process, the late nights, the grueling training, the relentless studying. We do it for the reward or to avoid the consequence. So, extrinsic motivation isn't necessarily about passion or love for what we do. It's about achieving a goal, earning a reward, or avoiding a punishment. It's about the end, not the journey. It's about the outcome, not the process. However, this doesn't mean that extrinsic motivation is bad or unimportant. Far from it. It can be a powerful tool to help us achieve our goals, especially when we need that extra push. In a world full of deadlines, targets, and expectations, extrinsic motivation can be our ally, our motivation, our driving force. Extrinsic motivation, then, is when our actions are influenced by external rewards or punishments. So, which type of motivation is better? The answer might surprise you. As we journey through life, we encounter a variety of motivational forces. Some of these forces come from within us, like our passions or personal values, and these are what we call intrinsic motivators. Others are external, such as rewards or punishments, and these are known as extrinsic motivators. You might be wondering, is one type of motivation superior to the other? Well, it's not quite that simple. Imagine a scale with intrinsic motivation on one side and extrinsic motivation on the other. If the scale tips too far in either direction, there can be consequences. Let's delve into this a bit more. On one hand, being solely driven by intrinsic motivation, while it sounds ideal, could lead to neglecting practical responsibilities. For example, if you're intrinsically motivated to paint beautiful landscapes all day, you might forget about the bills that need to be paid, or the job that keeps a roof over your head. On the other hand, depending entirely on extrinsic motivation could result in burnout. Think about it. If you're constantly chasing after rewards or trying to avoid punishments, you could end up feeling exhausted and unfulfilled. There's a term for this in psychology. It's called the overjustification effect, where external incentives can undermine intrinsic motivation over time. So, what's the key? Balance. It's about finding a sweet spot between the two types of motivation. Recognizing and harnessing both types of motivation can lead to a more fulfilling and productive life. It's about aligning your intrinsic motivations, your passions and values, with your extrinsic motivations, the rewards and recognitions that life offers. When you can find a way to balance these two types of motivation, you're not only more likely to achieve your goals, but you're also more likely to enjoy the journey. It's about creating a life that feels meaningful and rewarding, both in the moment and in the long run. A balanced approach, where we recognize and harness both types of motivation, can lead to a more fulfilling and productive life. Now that we understand these two types of motivation, how can we use this knowledge to our advantage? Good question, isn't it? Let's delve into this. Harnessing your motivation, intrinsic or extrinsic, begins with self-awareness. Recognize what truly sparks your drive. For intrinsic motivation, this could be pursuing passions, interests, or setting personal goals. Say you've always been passionate about painting. Don't just keep it as a hobby. Set a goal to improve, maybe even hold your own exhibition one day. The satisfaction and joy you'll experience in this journey can be a powerful intrinsic motivator. On the other hand, extrinsic motivation isn't all bad. It can be an effective tool when used wisely. Think about setting up a reward system for yourself. For instance, if you've been wanting to learn a new language, reward yourself with a nice dinner out or a new book for each milestone you reach. It could be completing a level or being able to hold a 5-minute conversation. This can serve as a great extrinsic motivator, pushing you to achieve your goals. Creating deadlines is another extrinsic motivator. Deadlines create a sense of urgency and can help you push through procrastination. For example, if you're an aspiring writer, set a deadline to finish the first draft of your novel. This can help you stay focused and committed to your writing. We've discussed practical ways to increase both intrinsic and extrinsic motivation. But it's important to remember that the balance between these two will differ for each person. Some might find more motivation from within, while others might be more driven by external rewards or deadlines. The key is to understand your own drives and motivations. Remember, motivation is not a one-size-fits-all concept. It is a personal journey of discovery and balance, where understanding your own drives can lead you to your highest potential. So, go ahead, harness your motivation and unlock your full potential.